Why it's time to forget about that 3-week stretch from the Giants, an uncomfortable truth about Jung Hoo Lee, and whether or not the Giants should trade Drew Gilbert. That's all coming up on Locked On Giants.
You are Locked On Giants, your daily San Francisco Giants podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello and welcome to Locked On Giants, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, where it's your team every single day. My name is Stiles. On the show, we provide daily episodes Monday through Friday, talking about the San Francisco Giants in a way that combines passion, analytics, with the eye test, and a little bit of fun. I'm from the Bay Area, but I live in Sacramento now. I also host a show on Sacktown Sports 1140, the Stiles Show, 10 a.m., 2 p.m. Be sure to check that out, as well as emceeing Sacramento Rivercats games. I'm lucky enough to cover a team I've been a fan of all my life. Today, we are discussing why it's time to forget about that 3-week stretch from the Giants, an uncomfortable truth about Jung Hoo Lee, and should the Giants trade Drew Gilbert. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Right now, new customers can bet just $5, and if your bet wins, you'll get $300 in bonus bets to use across the app. Download the app today. Why that 3-week period shouldn't matter anymore. We spent so much time. We were so excited. By the way, the Giants lost yesterday 6-5. At this point, it is what it is. They are struggle bussing, and they just can't get out of their own way. The big innings still happening. Justin Verlander wasn't the same guy that we saw. He gave them a chance. The Giants, they hit. It was okay. It was fine. By the way, as we talk about this 3-week stretch, the Cardinals, really the only team to win a series against the Giants during that 3-week stretch. So a little bit of ownage there, but the Giants don't get it done. The wild card is done. Playoffs are done. They're just playing for pride at this point, which isn't nothing. It's not nothing, right? You should always be playing for some level of pride, but that's the game. Let's get to the most important part of this segment, which is why I don't really care about what the Giants did not too long ago, because it doesn't matter anymore. The Giants lose again, this time to the Cardinals, who, like I said, have their number. Another big inning and another team that just scored and didn't look back, where the Giants, they score and they do look back. This is who they are. The Giants are now 2-8 in their last 10 games, and this is starting to look like a complete disaster, if I'm being honest. Fans are checking out for the season, and honestly, I don't blame any of you. All right? This is not fun anymore. I'm not having fun anymore, right? But you know what was fun? Just a couple weeks ago, when I sat here, should I say funny, looking back on it, when I sat here and I said that the Giants were the best team in baseball. Because you know what? For that 2.5, 3-week stretch, they were. They were. But you want to know what has happened since then? The Braves are 9-1. They've won 9 straight games. The Marlins are 9-1. They've won 6 straight games. The Guardians are 9-1. The Mariners are 9-1. The Diamondbacks are 7-3. The A's are 7-3. I'm actually embarrassed at how happy I was during that stretch, because what it is feeling like now is that every team just gets hot, right? Even like I said, even the A's, even bad teams get hot. I know the A's have a lot of potential, but even bad teams get hot. And that's all the Giants did. They just got hot for a little bit of time. They just happened to get hot during a time where everybody was excited to see whether or not they were going to be able to pull something off for the wild card. But they can't. They're fighting to get back to 500. They're fighting to finish the season 500. So when we're evaluating Bob Melvin and all this stuff, and I know I've gotten on the media members, how ridiculous was it that Bob Melvin may have lost his job? This is what we're talking about. Teams that are not anywhere near the wild card race. The Marlins, the Braves. Well, the Marlins are trying to sneak in there. The Marlins, the Braves, the A's. Everybody has a good stretch. The Giants had a good stretch, and they've completely imploded ever since. 2-8. 2-8 ever since that good stretch. So that's just what this is. And I'm not going to sit here and say that Bob Melvin saved his job because of a 2.5, 3-week stretch. So that second half, by the way, that stretch, they were 14-4. So it was fun. They were 14-4. Unfortunately, if you look at all of the second half, they're 25-35. 25-35 the second half of the season after the All-Star break. 14-4 during that little stretch, but as a whole, they are 25-35. So when it comes to Bob Melvin, you can't even say, well, they had a good second half or something like that. They did it. They're 10 games under 500. So all this stuff and all the fun we had, it feels embarrassing to me that I was so happy. And I know this is what fans do, and you got to give yourself some grace, and you might as well enjoy things while you can because you don't know when it's going to end. And trust me, we did. And trust me, it ended. But looking back on it, this is who the Giants have been. A team that can show you something in spurts, and then they falter. And some of it's not their fault. The pitching wasn't there, or at least we didn't think it was there from a starting standpoint, and even to some degree from a bullpen standpoint as well. The hitting was streaking. We get all that. But this is who they are. And I'm sitting here looking at all these hot teams, seeing the same things that I said from other people. The Locked On other channels out there. Look how hot the Marlins are. Look how hot the Braves are. And it makes me feel not sick to my stomach, but it makes me feel a little bit silly about how excited I was from what the Giants were doing during that time. Because every team gets hot for a little bit. Can you sustain it? And the Giants absolutely could not sustain it. So I honestly don't want to talk about it anymore. It was just a hot stretch in the midst of a pretty average, they're trying to get to average, 500, a fairly average season. That's who they are, an average team. And other teams, I know the Diamondbacks have a huge series. They still have the Dodgers. We were talking about all that. But the Giants, they sat there, 14-4, great stuff, and completely imploded. Completely imploded after that. 2-8 the last 10 games. When we needed you the most, you weren't there, San Francisco Giants. When we return, an uncomfortable truth about Jung Hoo Lee and center field. Don't move. More Locked On Giants coming up. You've probably seen a million ads for hair growth products and thought, sure, like that actually works. There's so many products out there, and it's hard to know which ones are actually going to do anything. That's why you should give Nutrafol a closer look. Nutrafol is the #1 dermatologist recommended hair growth supplement brand, trusted by over 1.5 million people. And it's not just hype. This is a supplement clinically tested that targets the root causes of thinning and shedding with a proactive approach. I have some buddies that use Nutrafol, and their confidence has been through the roof. Whether you're at work, out with friends, or even just getting ready in the morning, Nutrafol gives you more confidence in your daily routine. And you can feel good about it knowing Nutrafol is NSF certified and backed by peer-reviewed studies. See thicker, stronger hair with less sheddings in just 3 to 6 months with Nutrafol. For a limited time, Nutrafol is offering Locked On MLB listeners $10 off your first month subscription and free shipping when you go to Nutrafol.com and enter the code LOCKEDONMLB. That's Nutrafol.com, promo code LOCKEDONMLB. I've been reaching for my new pants almost every day. My Doer jeans. These are the most comfortable pair of jeans I own. I almost forget I'm even wearing jeans to begin with. I wear them to work, running errands, and just chilling around the house. They're antibacterial, meaning they stay fresh longer, so I can wear more and wash less. The jeans are made with Cool Max that regulates your body temperature and wicks moisture. Keeps you cool and comfortable as temperatures change. Great for any season. Doer combines classic jeanswear style with the kind of comfort and performance you get from athletic wear. It's the best of both worlds. Designed to look great and stay comfortable all day, no matter what you're doing. Doer are pioneers of blending technical innovation with everyday clothing. They invented the original performance denim. There's a reason why they call them the world's most comfortable pants, but don't take our word for it. Go try on a pair for yourself. Doer just opened a store right here in Hayes Valley, so you can feel the difference firsthand. Go check them out at 567 Hayes Street. Mention our promo code LOCKEDONSF in store to get 15% off your first order. Or check them out online at shopduer.com/LockedOnSF for 15% off. That's shopduer.com/LockedOnSF. The uncomfortable truth about Jung Hoo Lee and center field. There are a couple ways I thought about going about this, and I think I landed here. So last night, I said this on X, on Twitter. There's an uncomfortable truth out there about Drew Gilbert versus Jung Hoo Lee in center. Today is not that day, though. ... A bunch of people have been responding to me, some about Drew Gilbert's inability to hit right now. Someone else brought up Grant McCray. And I responded saying I thought Grant McCray was probably right there as a center fielder, possibly better. So the crux of this is how I feel Jung Hoo Lee plays the center field position. And when I responded about Grant McCray, it made me realize something. This isn't a comparison about Drew Gilbert to Jung Hoo Lee. This isn't a comparison about Grant McCray to Jung Hoo Lee. This is just about Jung Hoo Lee and the reality that he's probably going to be best served as a corner outfielder. That's the truth. I'm thinking more left field than right, but he could probably play both. By the numbers, he's below average in outs above average. He's below average in defensive runs saved. He's below average in fielding run value. He is 18th in defensive wins above replacement, according to ESPN. Do you know how many center fielders were qualified for that metric based on innings played? 19 center fielders. So he's the second worst center fielder in defensive wins above replacement. And this is not to bash Jung Hoo Lee at all. And he could improve, but it is worth noting that's where the Giants are at. He's got the same defensive WAR as O'Neal Cruz, who just transitioned to center field this season. And I bring up O'Neal Cruz because of the idea that Jung Hoo Lee can improve. Maybe he's banged up. It's been a long season, but this isn't a new position that he's attempting to learn. This isn't Mookie Betts, but they got Mookie Betts at shortstop right now. This isn't even a situation like that. He's been an outfielder. He's been a center fielder. I also think that the Giants, to be honest, they don't even, and this leads us into our next segment when we get there about Drew Gilbert, the Giants don't even want to think about this right now, because if Jung Hoo Lee moves to a corner position, his value is going down the tube. I don't know about going down the tube, but his value is going to take a huge hit if they move him to a corner. A lot of us thought that the Giants are bringing on a leadoff center fielder. Turns out we could be looking at a left fielder who hit 7 in the lineup, sometimes 6. So that is the first thing that popped into my mind yesterday as Drew Gilbert had that phenomenal play in center field. I'm not sure that Jung Hoo Lee is a center fielder. And not that he can't play center field, right? I'm not sure that Jung Hoo Lee is a center fielder. I'm not sure if he is best served as a center fielder, because you could also look at it like this. Maybe if you put him in a corner, he's not worried as much about playing center and his hitting improves. And obviously you're saying, well, Alan, who do you want to move out of their position? I don't even know right now, because right now Jung Hoo Lee's in center. Obviously we're trying to figure out what right field's going to look like. And I think it'll be Elliot Ramos in left. Where would all those things move? We've been continuing to talk about different guys that will be ready to play in the bigs in a couple years. But both of the guys that we've named off, right, in Bo Davidson and guys like that, I'm not seeing a pure center fielder based on who we've looked at for the player profiles. So it's not that Jung Hoo Lee can't play center, but I was looking at that yesterday saying, if Drew Gilbert starts to hit, it might be worth the conversation. And Elliot Ramos, I know that right field is a very specific right field, but some shuffling where, and I know somebody would probably say, well, Alan, if Elliot Ramos can't play left field at Oracle Park, what makes you think he can play right? I'm not necessarily saying he can, but if Drew Gilbert gets this bat thing figured out, Drew Gilbert is probably a better center fielder than Jung Hoo Lee. And that's not because I think that Drew Gilbert is this outstanding center fielder. I think it says more about Jung Hoo Lee in center than it does about Drew Gilbert and than it does about Grant McCray. Now, there are a lot of guys like this where defensively they're studs. We see that with infielders all the time, but if you can't figure out the hitting, then it ultimately doesn't matter. That's why this will come down to, can Drew Gilbert figure out the bat? Can Grant McCray figure out the bat? Luis Matos, look, Jung Hoo Lee is a better center fielder than Luis Matos. I'm not going to get ridiculous here, but it's less about those guys and more about what do the Giants want to do with this position. On top of that, he's sitting these games. He did not play last night again, and he's sitting these games. We've seen what happens, and I'm not comparing Jung Hoo Lee to Mike Trout, but there have been guys moved out of the center field position because they don't want to, the organization doesn't want to risk injury. Jung Hoo Lee missed all that time last season. So is this a matter of Jung Hoo Lee maybe seeing ghosts out there in center field? Could that be it? Based on his background and the injuries that he sustained? I don't know. But what I know is that when I watch Drew Gilbert, I don't know if he's faster than Jung Hoo Lee. I don't know if he's getting better jumps than Jung Hoo Lee, but I know this, he goes full tilt on every single play, and maybe it'll do him in as it's done in many other center fielders, but you do that until the wheels fall off, especially when you're trying to earn a spot. And we're not seeing that from Jung Hoo Lee in center field. We're just not. And it's not me. This is not an Alan Stiles opinion. A lot of people get on me on this show. Alan, show the numbers. I got the numbers for you. They're right there. Jung Hoo Lee is below average in almost every defensive statistic when it comes to a center fielder. That's what it is. His defensive WAR, he's second to last. That's just what he is right now. So if you're a hitter, and that's cool, we can move you to a corner. The problem with the Giants is that they have too many corner guys right now anyway. So they're not going to address it now. I don't believe so. He will be starting in center field to start off next season. But the long play here, in my opinion, is to get somebody. The hope is that a Drew Gilbert does figure out how to hit, or even a Grant McCray. They do turn it around as far as the bat is concerned. And what that means for Elliot Ramos, Jung Hoo Lee could probably play right. I know his arm isn't the greatest, but maybe you put him in right, something like that, and he can focus on hitting more. But Jung Hoo Lee is not a center fielder at the highest level. He's not. That doesn't mean he can't play center, right? They had Aaron Judge. Guys play center all the time, right? They had Aaron Judge in center. It ended up burning them in the World Series, but Aaron Judge played center. Aaron Judge, Gold Glover, right field. So they figured he could figure it out. Is Cody Bellinger better than Jung Hoo Lee? I guess it depends on the numbers, right? So I'm not saying Jung Hoo Lee can't play center, but we have, and I get it, first full season. Maybe he is banged up. Maybe we can see something more from him next season, but I do think next season is a huge season for him. As we talk about everybody offensively, I think Jung Hoo Lee defensively, we have to figure out if Jung Hoo Lee, is this just a bad season? Will the ghost go away now that he's played a full season healthy? And will he be able to go full tilt more, lay out more, things like that, build up and improve on that defensive WAR and all the other metrics that I just read off? Next season is huge. So I would start, all that being said, I would start him in center because that's what you're paying him to do. But I got to see something else this next season if you're going to continue to be my center fielder. I have to, especially at Oracle Park, where those balls that should be outs need to be outs. That's why you're playing in a pitcher's ballpark. If you're playing in a pitcher's ballpark, you have to set up a team that aids you in it being a pitcher's ballpark. And number one on that list is having an elite defense, which the Giants continue to talk about, but are not being about. So that's just what it is. One more segment with you. Let's discuss Drew Gilbert and whether or not he will be on the team heading into the 2026 season. Could he be moved to improve that pitching depth? Don't move. More Locked On Giants coming up. The NFL season is here, and FanDuel is making sure you're ready for kickoff with a can't-miss offer. Right now, new customers can bet just $5, and if your bet wins, you'll get $300 in bonus bets to use across the app. I love using FanDuel because it fits however you like to bet. Player props, building a same-game parlay, or even jumping in live as the action unfolds. It makes every game more exciting, whether you're watching your team or just keeping an eye on your fantasy lineup. It's quick, easy, and the best way to add a little more energy to Sundays. So are you ready to play? Download the FanDuel app now by visiting FanDuel.com to get started. That's FanDuel.com to place your first $5 bet. Is a Drew Gilbert trade inevitable? Drew Gilbert has already shown flashes of why he was such a highly regarded prospect, and Giants fans got another taste of that highlight reel authenticity that he brings with that catch in center field last night. The kid plays with energy. He has a solid approach at the plate, even though he hasn't fully put it together yet, and brings legitimate defensive value. In other words, he looks like the type of player you'd want to keep around for the long haul. But here's the reality. The Giants are going to need pitching, both in the rotation and in the bullpen, if they want to compete in 2026. Injuries, inconsistencies, and a lack of depth have all exposed this roster time and time again. And if the front office wants to upgrade meaningfully, they'll probably have to give something up. That's where Drew Gilbert comes in. He's young, controllable, and already showing he can handle center field at the big league level. That's exactly the type of asset that other teams covet. For a club that feels like it's one or two arms away from serious contention, Gilbert could be, I don't know about the centerpiece of a trade, but he could be a nice addition in a trade for a mid-rotation starter. Obviously, the Giants would have to give up other prospects, but hey, this guy has major league. He's been all over. We know he's a locker room guy. He has shown some flashes, and we haven't been able to give him at-bats every single day. So you could use that to get a middle rotation type guy, or maybe a high leverage reliever, something like that. The Giants already have Jung Hoo Lee, who we just spoke about. And like I said, they're at least giving him next season in center, maybe more than that. And maybe he improves after those ghosts seem to disappear. So he's their cornerstone outfielder. There could be some overlap in other places, I think the problem is, Drew Gilbert's obviously a better fielder than Elliot Ramos, but Elliot Ramos clearly is a better hitter. And do you want to just throw Drew Gilbert in right field? Do you feel like you have enough with Encarnacion and others, right? There are definitely a couple directions you could go. Of course, there are risks. Trading a player like Gilbert means that you're betting that your outfield depth will be solid. And if Gilbert blossoms into an all-star elsewhere, obviously that would sting. But for a front office that has been criticized for not taking enough big swings, moving Gilbert for the right pitcher might be the exact type of aggressive move that turns this roster around. At the end of the day, it comes down to this. Do the Giants value Gilbert more as a long-time outfield piece, or as a trade chip that they can finally use to bring in a pitcher that will add stability to that staff that kind of desperately needs it? You could find a team that's maybe down on their luck and in a position to give Gilbert a ton of at-bats. I think that's the biggest thing here. I know Matos, and we'll talk about this all during the offseason, about the options and whether or not guys are going to be able to be brought back. But you got McCray as far as the backup perspective. A lot of these guys, it's just what are we doing, right? If you look at it like a relationship, what are we doing? Are we going to move forward here? Are we going to move in together? What exactly are we doing? And I think that's the deal with the Encarnacion. And this happens with everyone. The Luis Matoses of the world, the McCrays of the world, Encarnacions of the world. What are we actually doing if you're the Giants? And I don't think any of those guys, I mean, I know Encarnacion has that power factor, but Drew Gilbert has the most trade value as far as I'm concerned, looking at the non-starting position players. He does. So you give an opportunity to them. The Giants might even be saying, we're planning on paying and going out and getting, I don't know about a Kyle Tucker, but we're going out and we're paying for somebody in right field anyway. Or we're planning on paying at second base for, in the Casey Schmidt situation, whatever like that, so we can afford for right field to kind of be a revolving door. You still get, by the way, you still got Tyler Fitzgerald. What if he figures it out? So the Giants have a bunch of guys kind of similar to their pitching rotation. They don't know who's going to pop or not. But if you can use Drew Gilbert, and I'm just using Drew Gilbert in this conversation because he has been with the Giants the shortest amount of time as far as these guys are concerned. He's made quite the splash, and he is a bit of a national name now. I know it sounds silly, but that stuff does matter. So do you cash in on him with a couple other prospects that you feel good about? Like I just said, that the cavalry is coming. We don't know how good they're going to be, but we know that the cavalry is coming as far as other outfielders in the Giants system on the way up. So as much as it would pay me, because y'all know I'm a Drew Gilbert guy, it would probably make sense if you're going to be able to get back somebody that's going to help you in the short term, as far as the pitching or something like that. That's where I'm at with it. I don't want to do it. It just feels like something that would make the most sense. Or fine, you just give him right field every single day. But if you're going to put him, if he's going to be the fourth outfielder, I would definitely think about moving him. That's how I feel. If he's going to start in right field for you, then cool. But if Drew Gilbert's going to be your fourth outfielder, I would see who's interested. He's bounced around a little bit. He's on his third team already, bounced around a little bit, but I think he's bounced around because he's just looking for that right spot. And the last thing I will say, ballparks matter. Ballparks matter. And Drew Gilbert, you get him in a Yankee Stadium, you get him in Colorado. I know Colorado's everybody, but you get him in Yankee Stadium, you get him in Boston, you get him in Cincinnati, something like that. He could look like a completely different hitter. Trent Grisham, I think, has 30. Trent Grisham, Jazz Chisholm, those guys all have about 30 bombs. They have no business having 30 bombs. Look at where they play. So I think that matters. And if you're looking for, and the Yankees have been very open about those lefty bats, and I'm not saying the Yankees, but if you're looking for different trade partners, somebody where you think Drew Gilbert could flourish, because I don't know, and I know he had one or two home runs, I think only one at Oracle Park, and he's had a lot of loud outs. You could say the same thing about Jung Hoo Lee. You could get him somewhere where his bat is going to look a lot better. That's just what it is. That's just what it is. Don't want to do it, but that's a little taste of what's coming up in the offseason, because that's where we're headed. We'll see what the Giants continue to do against the Cardinals, who have had their number. Thank you for watching and listening to Locked On Giants. Be sure to follow me on social media at _Stiles Files, Stiles with an I. Also, the Locked On Giants main account as well. Thank you for making Locked On Giants your first listen. As always, for your second listen, find the all-night Locked On MLB Game Night. Every game, every night until the World Series champion is crowned. Get local analysis on a national scale. Find MLB Game Night on Locked On MLB on YouTube or wherever you listen to podcasts. We will talk to you tomorrow. Until then, peace.